So if you've ever wondered how to tell the difference between authentic spiritual insight, spiritual performance, or why some creators online seem to have a direct hotline to every galactic council in the universe, then stay tuned. This is Psychic Talk with Jay and Sara. Today is episode 24. So today, Jason and I are stepping into an area of the spiritual world that most people just tiptoe around. And it's the space where psychic ability meets marketing and spirituality becomes a business. The New Age community is full of many, many wonderful people, but it's also a massive global industry generating. You're not going to believe this. It generates hundreds of billions of dollars. And that number is climbing. I am serious. And so whenever that much money and attention are involved, ethics matter more than ever. And so this conversation isn't about tearing anyone down. It's about telling the truth and dispelling the myth that everyone in the spiritual community has your best interest at heart. We're looking at the red flags, the wild claims, the channeled messages that are suspicious and sound like personal opinions, the predictions that get reframed and even deleted when they don't land, and the pressure tactics that leave people feeling dependent instead of empowered. Obviously, we're not here to say that psychic abilities aren't real. Many of our predictions and insights have been proven amidst scrutiny, and we've met other psychics who are just as caring, honest, ethical, and not in the business to make a quick buck. So today is episode 24.
Wow. I can't believe episode 24.
Well, I can't believe that the New Age business or spiritual business is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, what's up with that? I don't know.
Well, you bring up a good point. You know, there's ethics and morality with moral compasses that are part of the psychic responsibility, if you will. And if you just kind of look at, say, religions and the world religions, you have pastors, rabbis, preachers, ministers, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same thing for psychics. There's ethics and responsibility that is, on you when you take that role.
So to speak to that point, Jason, I'm just curious, when you started reading people around the age of, I know you were like 16 or 17, was that a topic of discussion from the mystery schools that you attended, or, when you first went to work at a metaphysical store? Did they talk about ethics or honesty and what the goal of a psychic reading should be? Or was that something that you just intrinsically know?
Well, that's a really good question. And, when I look back to those times in my life, ethics and things that I was brought up was within the family. When I went out into the world, which was at 17 at the House of Zodiac, I did work around a lot of psychics, but the talks weren't about ethics or any of that. It seems like back then, though, when I look back at that time, it was kind of intrinsically there. The readers I was around did have ethics.
So it was like an energy of your willingness to be responsible and honest and your desire to help other people. That's pretty much where it comes from, I would think, right?
Well, it's true. And, I was very young and I was taken under the wing of other wise women that were there. But looking back, the psychics that I met at that time also came from their own families and their own traditions. It wasn't like they woke up, read a book and said, I'm psychic.
Right.
So they were trained as well.
That's a good point, and that's something that I wanted to talk about today, because the spiritual community, New Age community, however you want to call it, has exploded in the past 10 years, especially in the past few years since COVID. And I bring that up because I'm sure you guys get them too. Tons and tons of ads on social media for courses, mastership program for your psychic abilities. I even came across one yesterday that said, We will teach you how to solve murder mysteries, or if missing persons cases. Maybe your friends have, someone who is missing. We can help you do that. Or we can teach you how to do that. And I thought, whoa, careful, careful, careful. How can you promise such a thing?
You
I mean, your
can't.
ability, you were born with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you can hone and teach and help
Mm-hmm.
someone grow with their abilities, but you can't teach an ability. It's either innate or it's not.
It is. You're either born with it and it's in you and you are trained and developed it. You don't just wake up, hit your head, and become psychic. I remember a missing person case. It wasn't like I was looking for missing people, but
They found
they
you,
found
though.
me.
When
And
you say they found you, is it the family that found you, or was it the police that came to you first?
in this case, it was the actual person was a client of mine, and he would come pretty regularly. And then all of a sudden, he just disappeared. And I often wondered what the heck happened to him. And somebody brought in one of his family members later and introduced them to me and said that he was missing.
Okay, so you had proven your gift to the family or to the other client, or what have you, and that was the reason why they came to you, because they trusted you,
Well,
right?
the parents knew that he was seeing a psychic. They
Okay.
didn't know me,
Okay.
but they knew I had relations with him. So they came into the store to see if they could find out anything about
That
their
that was
son.
that was really, really smart of them, and what a leap of faith to do that. And then what ended up happening, Jason, if you want to share that.
Well, so they came in to the shop, and there was a woman who managed the door and made the appointments. And she came to me and said, their son is missing. So I sat with them, and I started getting psychic impressions about their son. And I said to them, I'm going to help you to find him. I don't know how, but I'm going to help you. And then it turned into a kind of adventure where I would meet them at in this public place. And anytime I do missing people, murders, or anything to deal with law enforcement, it's like I become this dog or wolf or something.
Wow.
I'm not even the same person.
JJ the
The
canine
canine,
psychic,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
And the story, the short end of the story is we met, and I was directed to go to this, well, like a big place where people walk and trails, and it goes on for miles. Like, this place is huge. And I was led to take the parents there, and also the woman that worked with me at the store. The four of us went on this adventure. As soon as I got there, this hawk landed on a tree and looked almost through me. And I immediately got an overwhelming sense of sadness. And I knew right then that this messenger bird was letting me know something was not good, but that I was in the area.
Wow.
And so we walked through this area for quite a while, and it was like I was a dog. I was, oh, let's go this way, let's go up here. And I ended up leading us to this bench, and we saw his name carved in it, and he had a date on it. So we found that. We proceeded to move further into the trails and woods, and halfway in there, I got this overwhelming headache that I couldn't, it was artificial. It wasn't like me having a headache. It was me psychically picking up on some kind of trauma around the
Oh,
head.
oh boy. Yep.
And, I knew at that point, I said, your son is somewhere around here. I don't know where, but, and I told them I don't feel good about it. It was a very hard
I'm
thing to
feeling it.
relay.
Yeah. It must have been.
It was tough. And
you can't fake that.
you
There's no
definitely, and you
faking it.
can't learn it. It's not something that an
Right.
organization can teach you how to find missing people. That's just ridiculous. But I did say that to them, but the headache was so crucial that I couldn't carry on more. So I left it with them and I just told them the information. And within 48 hours, uh, they had reported it to the police, and within 48 hours, they had found the body in that
Oh,
area, and he had definitely hurt himself.
it must have taken you a while to recover from that, I would think,
Yeah, it
right?
was it was it was
That
sad
headache.
because
Hmm.
the headache took a while,
Right.
and
In
the
losing a client,
losing a
right?
client.
Because you develop a
Yeah,
relationship with them and it's based on trust. And to lose them like that, I'm sure
yeah.
that was very painful on multiple levels and bearing witness to the family as well. So the job as a psychic isn't an easy one, right? It's not glamorous by any means. And it's a heavy weight, it's a heavy burden to bear because, you're trying to help the client, you're trying to help the parents of this client. And also want to ask you, did you end up speaking with them afterwards?
Briefly, I think we had like one interaction. Of course, it was sad to hear the news, but they were very appreciative because they couldn't even get a lead to where he was at all.
Wow.
So it brought them it brought pain, but it brought solace in them.
I can't imagine that you would want to do this for a living. I mean, helping someone finding missing person, but you were hired to do, right?
Being a
Or
psychic,
called to do.
yeah, it's like a jack of all trades. You're not just forecasting divination or seeing the future. There's been serious cases that have come across my table that I look at as the universe putting them there because it can lead me to help the people. From murder cases to missing persons, but that is not what I advertise for or even want to do.
Now, that brings me to my second topic, which would be about fear based messages
Hmm.
that you hear psychics give. I feel like today a lot of psychics are giving very, very positive messages, like everything is sunshine and roses. We're in the 5D and happy schmappy, right? No. But for years, I think a lot of psychics were known, they would say, oh, be aware of this day and this curse. And I can't
Well,
speak to it as much as you could, but it seems like it would be manipulative.
those groups of people, you question their gifts. A true psychic that is born to help the people also has ethics and morality and spiritual responsibility. They have the wisdom of to know the gift comes with great responsibility. Therefore, if I was pandering fear or trying to make a living off of promoting fear, um, that's going to come back on the reader or the person that's sitting in that so-called seat. It's a hot seat. It's a
Yeah.
good seat, but it can be a hot seat if you're behaving improper to the person that comes to your table.
Right, because it's on a soul level, and you just don't want to mess with that. I wouldn't want to be in that position of fear mongering.
Well, no, I mean,
And
not
how
to,
does that help anyone anyway?
well, not to bring it back, but like when you have the ability to utilize, a gift to help people solve things like a murder or a missing person, you also realize that there's something greater than you that's helping you to help the people. So with that wisdom, whether you call him God or her goddess or whatever your frame of reference is, the universe or this or that, the reality is there's something greater than yourself. How was I able to solve a murder? How was I able to bring a missing child? Is it just my gifts or was I being led by something greater? And the reality is it's being led by something greater. So there's a big responsibility that comes with this.
And I think Source or our guides, angels, God, want us as psychics to give the person sitting across from us the most hopeful and helpful message possible so that they can do better.
Yeah, your job as a psychic is to, if you do see the difficulties, is to help them process it, walk them through it, or go around it if all possible. Sometimes it's a fixed karmic lesson. So then they have to walk through it, but your job as a psychic is to highlight the tools to navigate them through it. But anybody that focuses on the the negative in the map of the tarot and says, oh, you're going to go through this. So if you pay me certain amount of money for these candles and say they're $100 a piece, I'll help you. That's
Oh, I
not
hate that.
that's not
That's
what this
bullshit.
gift is about.
Yeah.
And talking about psychics, the question is, how do you know a good psychic? Like, what is the qualifications? And I say that because my son reached out and said, Dad, I've been looking online at a lot of these psychics, people claiming to have abilities and gifts. And he says, I can't believe the things that they're saying. And like I said, like what? What's the example? He says, well, some psychics get on and they talk about celebrities and they say how they're evil and involved with this conspiracy groups.
Wow.
And right there is a red flag.
That is a red flag. So one, because they don't have the permission of said celebrity to be reading them, right? Wouldn't you say that that is a red flag right there?
Number one, a psychic really should not talk about anyone that hasn't been at their table.
Right.
And even if they have been at their table, there's a reason there's a table, and there's a reason that there's a fee to sit at that table, because it then allows for the universe to show the psychic that, oh no, this person's serious. They want my help. They just paid me. So now you have all the permission to help them. But yet, if somebody doesn't cross your table, and I'm not saying you got to charge everyone, because there's situations people cross your table, maybe they can't afford it and you still help them, but they're at your table. But to sit there and pull out a celebrity or pull out someone, anyone for that matter, and you have no history with them of crossing the table, it is unethical and unwise to spout off all this negative stuff. Oh, they're sex trafficking. They're doing this. They're doing that.
Yeah, it's horrible. Well, don't you realize that they're doing it for hits, for likes, for views? I mean, that's what people want right now. If it's a celebrity, you've got the attention of many, many people who want to know.
Well, and this separates the difference between somebody that's truly here to help the people or not. Because if you're grifting for views, or if you're spouting off things, and the question is, did you ever break bread with them? Did you ever read them? And the answer is no. Then why the hell ethically are you peering into someone's world? First of all, I don't believe you can even do it.
Right.
And second of all, because you don't have the ethics and the morality. So that means you don't have the wisdom to really sit in that seat if you're just going to point fingers at people you never even came to your table. And I learned that the hard way. Very young.
Well, share if you have a story around that. I'd love to hear it.
When you're young and you're doing things, you even if you think you're wise, you're really not. You're still learning, right? So when I was young, it was not a surprise to sit around a bunch of people and just pull out the cards. No, let me read you, which is wrong. Absolutely wrong. And I learned the hard way, because that particular day, and I'm not going to say names or anything like that, but there was a group of us. And I just started to, let me read everybody. And one of the readings I gave was very traumatic and very sad and very difficult. And it ended up happening for this person.
Oh, man.
And me and that person had a little bit of a fallout because of that.
I bet.
And they were rightfully so for being upset, because they didn't ask for the reading. I gave it to them. And when the event happened, it was a tragedy and a loss, very painful.
Oh, wow. Jason.
And it took many, many years. And we visit the same situation. So over the years have gone by, but we finally have come back together. We've hugged each other. We always give hugs when we see each other. It's better that way. But for a long time, this person had every right to be upset with me. And I learned from that, because it damaged a relationship. And that just means, just because you can read someone, if someone is not at your table, you don't have the right to peer into their world or to make future predictions.
So we're talking about ethics again, and that just brings up my thought about remote viewing. There is an organization out there called Farsight Institute, where they say they're training people, and there's all kinds of stories about peering into other worlds and all that sort of stuff. So my question for you, Jason, is your client who had gone missing,
Yeah.
and the family hired you. Now, what is the difference between that and someone remote viewing to see where a body might be? Is there a similarity there, a big difference?
Well, the difference is the family came to me, right? The difference is, the circumstance came to me and it was in my jurisdiction because it was a client. So now I have history here and the family comes to me. So it's my duty to help them if I can. Now, if it's remote viewing, where I'm just going to peer in on anybody's situation, whether it's governmental, private, or whatever, there's ethical boundaries there. And why would you want to teach people how to remote view? I hope they have a good ethic program.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that remote viewing is even real. I'm not so sure the government even did that, because, you also hear the stories, oh, they found me this way and they found me that way. I have made countless predictions that have come true that are worldly in sense, even dealing with war, pestilence, and all kinds of things. The government never came to me and said, hey, would you like to utilize your gift? So I'm not convinced that half the stuff you hear out there in this world is even real. I think the government makes a lot of things up, and I think a lot of people fall for it is the problem.
Ooh, I love this conversation. When I hear the term remote viewing, it raises the hairs on the back of my neck. I don't believe in it. And if you have a psychic ability, if you're intuitive and you might be clairvoyant, you can have instances where you can do remote viewing. I don't argue with that. I believe that is real, but the terminology, I don't use remote viewing. I think you're clairvoyant, you're psychic. Remote viewing, it's the premise is that you can be trained, kind of like those super soldiers, right? Training, which and is another topic altogether. But for me, I think, okay, so if someone is a remote viewer and they can peer into someone else's space, well, where is the ethics in that if they didn't ask? They could be here right now, they could be in your bathroom when you're getting changed, all those sorts of things. That grosses me out. Well, it really does.
Well, if you find yourself just randomly, intuitively throwing your finger up for no reason, maybe you're giving that to the remote viewer that's trying to check you out. Joke.
Right. So you really want to be careful when you're looking at psychics. You want to look at their records, their testimonials, and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's true. And
trust your gut too. If something feels off, it probably is off. If something sounds too wild to be true, it probably is too wild to be true if there's no evidence to back it up.
You have to have evidence. If you're a professed psychic, then you come to the table with receipts, and those receipts are not just testimonials. You cross the boundaries of testimonials when you're, done stuff like solve murders, find missing people,
or making predictions,
or making worldly predictions.
And we work with scientists, so the things that we say, they're held to a high standard, right? We can't get away with making stuff up.
And not with scientists.
No, you can't. So in this day and age, with AI and the billions and billions of accounts on social media, you really, really want to be smart about things, because people are making a lot of money and you don't want to be taken.
Well, again, when there's no predictions that have been rendered, and as soon as somebody's talking about someone else, celebrity or otherwise,
right.
That's a red flag.
It is.
There are cases I've done, I don't even know how many, thousands and thousands and thousands of readings over the years. There is so much that I have, and have that brain, psychics have that brain where they don't remember a lot because you're not supposed to hold on to stuff.
Yeah.
But there are cases that I hold on to where people, like a priest, they would tell you something and they say they passed away. I still hold on to stuff that I know about people that will never leave my lips.
And for our audience, some of you have had readings with Jason. He never shares readings with me. Just for the record, we didn't never discuss your readings. I mean, those past predictions, obviously, in the missing persons cases, you've told me stories, but they're vague. You've never used names. So, you are held to a higher standard and you walk the walk, Jay. You really, really do. So I respect you so much. I, you know, should spiritual influencers and people who are making these claims be held accountable?
The accountability that's held for those people is held with the great architect of the universe. In other words, let them do what they do. When you dance to the music, you pay the piper. And what kind of music are you dancing to? If you're dancing to unethically talk about celebrities or talk about random things, eventually there's accountability, but it's through the universe. For us to say, oh, it's this and that, it doesn't do anything because they're going to keep grifting. What I've noticed over the years when I first started, there were authentic psychics, but they were few and far between. And most of them came from family backgrounds. Didn't matter what ethnic or what race or what not. The psychic gift is in many different families per se. And that's the origin of it for the psychic readers and the public. But over the years, with the internet and things expanding, you have this explosion of psychics, which right there doesn't make sense. Not everybody that is born gifted is going to be a reader or a psychic or a person that you can find. Only the few step out in the public. But since the computer, you have people that are crafty, that are, grifting, that are looking for views or looking for money. I mean, $1 billion industry is no joke.
Over $100 billion. It might be like $300 billion.
That doesn't even make sense to me.
Right. Well, it's also products too. Crystals, candles, incense, all that stuff. I know those are kind of smaller things, but as an orgone designer, I make orgone. I've noticed other people selling pieces of orgone that I might charge, say, $100 for. They're charging thousands for.
It's unbelievable.
So there's a lot of greed going on. And you bring up a great point about the universe taking care of it. So we don't necessarily have to. No. We're talking truth. We're not trying to, throw stones at anybody, but we're just trying to grow your awareness that this is happening, right? When you talk about the universe, you're talking about karma. And it's suspiciously missing from a lot of these influencers' language is karma. Oh, you can get off the karma wheel anytime. Oh, forget about karma. There's no such thing. That is a massive red flag for me because every single person who's alive right now has karma and we're all working through lessons. And those lessons define the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And sometimes we need to be in a lesson for a while. And especially if we're not learning and growing, we get stuck in these lessons. But then you might see this influencer, not naming any names, but they say, you can manifest abundance. Just put your mind to it and you can manifest whatever you want.
And not only that, there's a price tag to enter there.
Oh, that's right, because they have cruises and they have these lectures. Yeah. And I'm shocked at the price tag. And one such organization, again, I'm not naming any names, they make $35 million a year and they're not a nonprofit. This is a spiritual influencer. So that is kind of disturbing to me. What are you doing good in the world? You are talking bullshit to people. I'm sorry, but if you don't talk about karma, it's like spirituality 101. That is not something that you can
just
avoid.
Jump off. Yeah.
You can't.
It's like saying the Wheel of Fortune, right? That card, the Wheel of Fortune, which is the ultimate card of fate and karma and all kinds of stuff. So you're telling me you can just jump off the wheel of debt? It's like the Christians say you're born with sin. They call it sin. We call it karma. But it's kind of the same because if you look at a sin, it's what created the karma for you to come back.
Well, a lot of New Agers say if you have a positive attitude, then you can have whatever you want, as long as you have the mindset,
And
right?
those people that are preaching that are the ones that are receiving the money. The people
Oh,
that are
yeah,
in the audience are the
sure.
ones paying the money.
Yeah.
But because of karma and because of certain things, a lot of people, they manifest, they follow the ideas, and they say, well, nothing's working. And they're not teaching them how to work with your karma and identify the areas that need to be worked on to allow for the manifestation to take root. You might have karma you got to work through.
Well, have you noticed that the law of attraction only works to people that have money? I mean, if a poor person, they can't afford to go to one of those lectures or take that cruise where they're talking about the law of attraction, right? Well, what are they feel like a loser, right? I can't afford to go to this, so I'm not going to attract wealth. I'm never going to have abundance in my life. Think about that.
Well,
Where are the ethics there?
The ethics, but
So it's easy to attract abundance when you already have money. It's very difficult when you're in poverty. But you got to look at that. How come I can't attract abundance when I'm in poverty? Well, your poverty might be part of your karma.
Well, how come
nobody's teaching that?
Well, how come if you're making $35 million annually, why can't you take 1 month and offer your program for free to the people that really can't afford it? If you're really trying to help the world, you're not just going to make it about the almighty dollar. And if you are going to make it about the almighty dollar, why are you doing that in the new age or the spiritual community where there's plenty of people that don't have resources that just want to have a better life? So it's a strange dichotomy, this psychic business.
It truly, truly is. Well, calling it a business is actually, that makes the hair stand up in the back of my neck too. We all need to make money, right? We're not against making money if you're a psychic or if you've got a spiritual business. Not at all. I hope that you're doing really well with it, as long as you're doing good work. If you're responsible and you're ethical and moral, trying to help people, there's no reason why you can't make a decent living off of that. But to lie to people, to deceive them,
you can't escape your karma. I mean, even when you die and you're done, you still have karma that's being worked out even after this life.
Well, a lot of these people too, they just preach all positivity. They're in denial of duality, right? They're in denial that there are lessons here that keep people in sometimes very difficult circumstances.
Some of these people, I'd love to sit with them and we can go psychic head to head and see.
Well, I feel like this is why society is a mess, because people, they don't know the truth. So
it's quite the opposite of what a lot of these so-called psychics are saying. And the UFO community, the reptilians and all the grays have been removed from the planet. Well, then what's the damn excuse for the humans? They're doing worse than what it was before they left the planet. We keep devolving. Anytime, you hear, everything's just rosy. Everything's just peaches and cream. It's like, what? Are you kidding?
Have you looked out your window yet?
I mean, do we want to talk about local murders or do we want to talk about mass murder on the world stage?
Well, maybe that's our segue to current events. So I think it is time for current events, because we could go on and on and on about this, but let's just put it to the side. I'm sure it's a topic that we'll go back to in another podcast. So, normally our producers, Annie and Morgan, give us ideas for current events. And I got to say, we don't really need any ideas. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I just want to point out one that just happened over the weekend. Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead passed away. And I see Jason's wearing a Bertha shirt to honor Bob in his memory. How are you doing, Jason?
I mean,
it was a big part of your life, the Grateful Dead. Obviously, we've talked about this, and it's just a never-ending subject, really.
Well, I know there's a podcast we did some time ago that explained the history of me and
it's called The Grateful Dead Connection.
The Grateful Dead Connection. If you listen to that, you'll understand why it was such a big part of my world. All I'm going to say is that it was a shocker, and It's an end to the childhood dream, losing Bobby at this point. Um, it's the ending. Now, the beginning is there too for so many other countless people that come in the last 5 years, and all these Grateful Dead cover bands that are everywhere. But that's what Jerry wanted. He wanted the music to be played forever. And at first I was like, wow, Bobby brought in John Mayer, and it's so expensive, and I can't really get there at this point because I just can't afford these astronomical tickets. And at first I was kind of like, wow, what's happening here? But then I stepped back and I tuned in psychically, and I realized that Bobby was very smart, because he realized that, a lot of us older deadheads, we were, some of us weren't financially apt.
You're a younger deadhead. Let's face it. You were a kid. There were some older deadheads are probably in their 80s now.
Well, I don't know about that. Bobby was only 78, so I don't know.
Listen, just because he was 19 or 16 or however old he was when it started doesn't mean the fans weren't in their 20s and 30s. Well, he's not the oldest deadhead.
Well, he's not, but the reality of, him pulling in Mayer, it actually did a service, because it also brought in a lot of other people. It was like new blood was coming in, and the Dead culture needed that. It needed to have some new to forward it into the future. And Bobby also did what was it? Not opera, but the conductor thing.
Yeah, symphony.
So Jerry would have been proud, because the music and the storytelling went into symphony. It went into more elitist kind of areas, and allows for the music to carry on. And that was Bobby's trajectory all along.
And there's some really, really good cover bands too. And I say that because in order to cover the Grateful Dead, you've got to be a really good musician, right?
You do.
So, I've enjoyed watching some Dead cover bands. I've only seen the Dead once, and it was Dead and Company with you at Fenway. Thank you, Lisa and Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
Little shout out.
Yeah, Lisa and Steve's just miracle workers. I mean,
I imagine that they're taking this pretty tough too, because they've probably seen hundreds of shows.
It's hard for all of us still here, because we never get to see him again in that sense, and hear that beautiful voice of his, cater to our spirits. But we still personally have Max Creek, and that band was right from the beginning. They started in 71, and boy, oh boy, they can play the Dead from then, even now, like other bands can't. And they've stayed true. So there still is this place that is a home for us to be a part of. And I know there's a lot of other cover bands, but at the origin, in the beginning, it was Max Creek. There was one cover band called Slipknot, and that was pretty much it. I mean, you had Widespread Panic, you had the Allman Brothers, you had other acts, but it was really Max Creek and the Grateful Dead. And it's still that way for me today. So
the music never stopped.
It never stopped. But anyway.
I think the biggest thing in the news right now, well, what is the biggest thing in the news right now? Well, ICE. ICE is a problem. The murder in Minneapolis. So, Trump seems to be wielding quite the heavy hand in every avenue, in every area these days.
Well, the universe has a way of highlighting things with circumstance and events when things are maybe getting a little out of control. And you look back and you say, well, how come there was no other incidents like that? And now all of a sudden there's that one. And then I think 2 other people were hurt in another state. That's the universe saying, okay, let's reevaluate, because these accidents are happening, and people are getting murdered and hurt. There's been a lot of pushing in that area. And hopefully what these signs mean is to kind of pull back a little bit. Don't be so aggressive. It's like, really, we don't need to use physical force on anyone, really. I mean, you have the gun on your hip is good enough. You don't need to exercise it or pull it out to hurt someone. unless your life is truly in danger. And I know people are saying, oh, well, she was driving the car and going to run him over. I don't know. I really didn't look at the footage, to be honest.
He could have shot the tire instead.
All I know is that the pendulum is going to swing. Like these things that are happening are showing cracks through their plan. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if there's wisdom around them, they would be reevaluating their tactics and their procedures and maybe pivoting to the left or to the right instead of remaining the same.
Jason, I don't know if you remember that a few months back, you made a prediction that there would be trouble in Iran.
I don't remember exactly, but is it on the podcast?
It's on one of the podcasts. I don't remember which one, of course. I could look back and find it.
I think there will be some agreements, but because of the underlying hidden hand, there could be some flare-ups in the Muslim fraction of things. So we could see in Yemen and in Iran and certain areas start to heat up. You know, it's a little troublesome.
Here we have, you know, massive protests and violence happening in Iran. You know, they want to be free, but 2,500 people have been killed in the process. Yes.
What was the prediction?
The prediction was just
there could be some flare-ups in Yemen and in Iran.
That there was trouble brewing in Iran. And if you remember, also, there were a couple of missiles that went back and forth between Iran and Israel. Okay. And I thought that might have been it. But then that seemed to quiet down, or we didn't hear anything more about it. And I wasn't following it, to be honest with you. And then this just pretty much erupted recently over the past week or two. So I just wanted to let you know that prediction seems to be coming true. I don't really know. What do you have to say about that, Jason?
Let me take a look at the cards, for a minute. I just to get a little bit of
good idea.
It's my cheat sheet.
Good idea. Oh, it's fun too, and they're so pretty.
But we can take a look at Iran and everything else. I will say this though, before we do, and I don't take sides in politics, red or blue.
Hell no.
No,
of course not.
Doesn't matter to me. But I do look at what people say. And, I remember when he came into office, he said, we're going to make America great again. I kind of wanted to believe that, because
a lot of people wanted to believe that.
Yeah. And here's how you show you're making America great again. When Elon Musk and him were doing that Doge money, right, and they recovered so much money.
Yep.
And now we have
the Venezuelan oil.
The oil.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And here's the problem. So you got all that billions of dollars for the Doge thing, and you got all this oil. But then he follows it up and he says, market prices. So it's like all these things that you're accumulating in wealth.
How is it benefiting the American people?
You're not giving a piece of it to anybody that's from here.
So it's almost like he was given an opportunity to make America great again, or to at least take steps in that direction, and he blew it.
Well, it seems that way and it's not like socialism or giving away money, but it's like if you're the leader and you're representing the people, rich, poor, black, white, and I just uncovered billions and billions of dollars, I'm going to make sure, just out of goodness, that the people get something of that. I'm going to look at that bounty and say, okay, let's take 20% of this and rework it back into the hard American tax-paying people that need a hand up. And then with the Venezuela, same thing. So instead of making it market price, I'm going to make it below market price for the American people, just so that they can get a break on my bounty. Mm-hmm. But we don't see any of that, which is disturbing to me. So how are you making it great again? And for who? A small group of people.
Let's pull some cards. What do you say?
Yeah.
So is this about, okay, we were talking about Iran, and then you said, let's pull cards. Mm-hmm. So are we pulling it for that situation, or are we pulling them for the collective, sort of?
We can do both. We can do both.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to just
How many do you want?
Pull 5 cards on Iran.
Okay. I never know how to pronounce that country. Iran, Iran.
I just look at it as the old Persian bloodline.
Oh, I was just going to say that. I was going to say the Persians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So you want 5, eh?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Here we go. Let's see here. I'm going to put on my spectacles here. Iran, there is some central power there. But the Eight of Cups is like, how do I explain this? It's in the Hermit card. It's like the universe is shedding light on the challenges and the things that are not working. And when you have the Hermit in between 2 eights, specifically the Eight of Cups and the Eight of Wands reverse, that's tough. They're going to need diplomatic relations. They're going to need communication. Never mind, there's no swords. Like, war is not the answer here.
Right.
But with cards like this, if they don't have the wise people at the helm doing the negotiations and talking to people,
diplomacy,
it's not going to work.
Yep.
Because Iran has cards that are reversed. The 8s are both reversed, which is they have legitimate gripes about this or that. And with the 4 cups being there, us, the United States, probably sees what that is and has made a gesture towards them. But they're not taking it, because whatever that gesture was, that cup that they were trying to work with them, it wasn't done with wisdom. And it wasn't done with wise diplomatic relations. It's very short-sighted, and it's very one-sided, and therefore leaves problems to still go on.
When you have a big ego, it's easier just to flex your muscles and your military might and say that you're just going to go in and, guns a-blazing, right? That's what egomaniacs do. They don't have the wisdom.
Well, they don't. And the wisdom is knowing that you are mortal in this human flesh avatar and that your spirit lives on. If you're in a position to really help things, but you're just being a maniac to perpetuate war, then there will come a day when you take your last breath and all these things is like a life review. So that's where the wisdom comes in. I wish people would do better in high places and, look out for the so-called people.
Speaking of the people, do we want to pull some cards for the people?
Sure.
How many?
I would say 5.
Okay. I'm making a mess over here. I'm shuffling, sort of. Yeah. Here we go. I just don't want to pull the same cards, Here you go. This looks interesting.
Yeah.
We've got the Queen of Cups reversed, King of Wands, Judgment reversed, followed by the Chariot, and then 6 of Cups reversed.
Very interesting. Very interesting, and tells a really interesting tale. So the fact that you have the King and Queen upside down, and you have, is this Judgment?
That's Judgment reversed, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what that says is that for the collective, they're still ironing out the goddess-god relationships within themselves. And what those 2 cards say with Judgment reverse is that the male card is right side up, the masculine, the authoritarian, the godhead, and the goddess is still reversed.
Yeah.
Judgment is reversed as well, which means spiritually, the universe is kind of not happy that the goddess is not right side up. The good news is we do have the Chariot, which means the universe is absolutely, as a collective, supporting the growth of balance. Because in the Chariot, and I don't know if they can see it, but there's a black and white horse, and it's leading the Chariot. And the black and white horse represent duality. But when they're working in synergy moving forward, then the goddess is respected and renewed, and the Godhead knows his position. Because the male is supposed to support and elevate the femininity of this world. And if the goddess was restored, we wouldn't be having a lot of these wars and pestilence and stuff.
Right, because the goddess is about love and empathy and compassion and equality, right, and unity, and just being soft. And anyway, I that does read really, really well. But then you've got the Six of Cups reversed, which to me it just says, leave the past in the past, right? Let's move forward. Let's create something new. And I'd love to see that Queen of Cups card turn right side up.
And I think you make a really good point with that Six of Cups, leave it in the past. And with that Chariot there, that's our saving grace card to say the universe, as long as we are collectively moving forward in the sense of raising the goddess, we're going to be successful, because the Chariot is the great equalizer. And it's universal support to move the ship forward. But it's going to take a hand from the universe, because when you have the king up and the queen down, that just says the energy is really right now centered around authoritarian, masculine dominance, taking the world stage in that accord.
Aggressive.
It's aggressive.
Yeah, it is.
So we got work to do.
And on top of that, I've heard a lot of, statements being made against empathy and against empaths. And
really?
Yes. So it's like a backlash to what we thought was a burgeoning growth, of truths about the goddess, which is all about empathy and love and enlightenment and unity. So again, the pendulum is swinging.
It is.
So people are aware, right? It's being, again, you can't help but see this mess, the chaos, the ugliness of it all. And it's hitting an extreme, and then it's just going to go back to the other side.
It is. And the other side is working diligently to put people in positions now, as they're aware the pendulum is swinging. So with that said, you would want Trump to do the best he can do, because the pendulum is swinging. And, let's see where it goes. But I'm surprised about the comments of empathy, but it just shows the lack of wisdom, because empathy is not just like, oh, I feel someone, boo-hoo, and crying.
It's almost like they think empathy is a result of just being traumatized or being too sensitive or being a snowflake, or that it's made up. It could be a mental illness or something, like overly emotional. When it's truly a psychic ability, because you're really and truly feeling what another person is feeling. You feel energy. I mean, I could feel you earlier talking about that client that was missing, that ended up passing. I could feel your energy, and I knew that it was still on your heart, right? It's something that you'll never get over, in a sense. Anyway, regarding empathy, it is a huge, huge helpful ingredient for the new world.
And it's spiritual in nature. It is the precursor to psychic abilities. Like people that are empathic, if you work that muscle, then yes, eventually you are going to be able to find a missing person if it crosses your table, or solve other things. None of that I would have been able to reach had I not been empathic, and had I not been going through learning that muscle. So empathy is not just a precursor to psychic ability, but it's also the precursor to peace on earth. And,
that's right.
And unity.
So-called ascension. I say so-called because, it's not like we're going to be leaving the third dimension and then just jumping into the fifth dimension like some people think. But, it really is the key to building a new civilization, because clearly the old civilization is collapsing. We're bearing witness to it. And if you step back and you could look at it neutrally, it's kind of exciting. It's painful, but it's exciting, because on the other side of it is something new and something wonderful. But you got to keep going. You got to keep doing the right thing. You got to take responsibility for yourself and lead with love. And that is that goddess energy that you're talking about.
And in conjunction with that, they say the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, and this yada yada noise, because you're not leaving the third dimension until you die. The goal is to transform and bring in a new world in this dimension. The fifth dimension waits if you evolve. If you did a great job here, so good, in fact, that you burned so much more of your karma, you'll excel to the fourth dimension and you'll see another plane of existence just like this one. It's a dimension where everything's thicker. You know, the material plane, the density here is thicker. But if you evolve, meaning you've done a good job, you've burned your karma, you've reached a point of evolution, then when you are reincarnated, you might have the luxury to be in the fourth dimension. But the reality is, if you devolve here and you contribute to making things worse, when you leave, you might go descend to the second dimension, or even the very first, and boy, is it hot down there.
So on that note, how about we go to the Karma Spotlight?
Sounds good.
Yes. So, Jason, I love talking about karma, and I think today we're really picking apart society. Yeah. We'd love to talk about some people who have done really, really positive things recently. My pick for the Karma Spotlight this week is a gentleman by the name of Paolo Campolo. Hopefully I pronounced it correctly. If you guys remember that there was a terrible fire in Switzerland at a ski resort on New Year's Eve, this past couple of weeks ago. But this gentleman, Paolo Campolo, he received a call from his daughter. She was there. And of course, he came rushing there, and he went to the building and he saved 10 other teenagers from the fire. And now he's in the hospital. But, you know, I saw a picture of him online and he was smiling. What a kind-hearted person with so much empathy, and even smiling in the midst of such a terrible tragedy. But knowing that he did his part to save 10 young lives like that. So running into a burning building, I mean, come on. Wow. You can't get much more heroic than that.
Really
so
can't.
He's my pick.
That's
for
a
the
good
Karma
pick.
Spotlight.
That's a really good pick. Mine, I never met this person or don't know anything about this person, but she came on my radar. They call her the hidden hero. Her name is Maggie, Doyne. I guess it's Doyne.
I would say Doyne.
Doyne.
Yeah.
From what I gather, she's a backpacker. She used her life savings, which was only $5,000. She took every penny at age 19 to buy land in Nepal to build an orphanage. She founded a company called Blink Now Foundation. And that company today provides homes, schools, clinics for children in Copila Valley. She didn't just donate money, she moved there, became a legal guardian to dozens of children, and built sustainable community model. Her story is an incredible personal journey in how someone's individually good karma can spark a generation of others to be supported.
I love it. I always love pointing out people who take a special interest in kids, whether they're in danger or, you know, destitute, homeless, whatever the case may be. There are a lot of really good people out there and a lot of great stories. And I always love hearing those good stories. We need that. We need that in the world. We need more goodness, more, because there are good people out there.
There really
it's inspirational.
And it is inspirational when you think about all her life savings was $5,000 at 19, and she took every penny of that and put it on the table. Most people are not going to take every penny they have and put it on the table. She did, and it worked out.
She sounds like an angel.
Yeah.
She really does. Well, I have to say, I've really enjoyed this episode with you today, Jason. It's, you know, we've had some great guests on our show over the past few months, and it's been a while since it was just the two of us, and I had a lot of fun today, and it's a new year.
It is a new year.
And it's a 1 year, right?
It's
2026.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to some good things happening this year, very progressive things for all of us.
Well, and I say salute to Bob Weir, and thank you, Lisa and Steve, for bringing me to that show. I think it was in Connecticut, or it might have been New York. I can't remember the exact location. Connecticut, I think, but you got me in the front row, and I was able to see Bobby up close like I had never seen
Oh,
him in
Wolf
my life.
Brothers.
The Wolf Brothers.
Yeah.
It was amazing, you know? So, bon voyage.
See you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye.